Game
it's not
started.
Okay, so B4 opening. Let's start with E4. B4 opening is from Puerto Rico. Okay, looks like we get an E4, E5 opening. I think I'll play a Ruy Lopez if I get the chance. I haven't had one of those in a while, but this is a Philidor. And Bishop G4. This is not supposed to be good. This is the famous Morphy Opera House game started like this. So if he takes back, you trade queens and grab the pawn. So he has to play like this. What's the move here? Oh, he was supposed to take the knight. So this is a pawn sacrifice line. So this is different. So he can take the pawn. He can bring his knight here. He can break the pin. I think that's still good for white. So he's not going for the... I thought he would bring his knight here immediately, but he's not going for that. So can I push the pawn forward? Pawn there. How's he taking it? He can take with the knight. Knight takes. He can take here. Knight take back with the queen. Doesn't this work out in my favor? Let's think again. Pawn here. Knight takes. Knight takes. Bishop takes. Queen takes. I'm like a piece up and I'm defending my knight. Maybe he has some clever intermediate move here. But I'm not seeing it at the moment. He takes the knight first. I take the bishop. Yeah, so he just takes with the knight. Now his bishop is hanging, so he should take here, right? If he takes the knight, I take his bishop. So he takes there, yeah, and now my and now my knight is defended, so I'm a piece up, and his king is subject to a discovered attack. So yeah, the way he played that just didn't work at all. So I have to unpin in a hurry, or well, I can go ahead and castle. Let's start with castling, so that my queen and my knight are not caught in a skewer. And then I can actually defend the knight with the pawn to f4 or bishop to f4. Maybe bishop f4 is better. And pawn to f4 is more reliable, though. Yeah, pawn to f4. Problem with bishop f4 is he could move this knight with tempo and then maybe get in the move f6 and try and win my knight back. When I have it defended by a pawn, then I can unpin with the queen, and even if he wins that piece, yeah, I mean, he could maybe win a pawn there by taking with the piece, I guess is what I want to say. But he doesn't have time to move his knight and push the f-pawn. I'll have time to unpin before that happens. So let's see if he comes up with something here. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, the move that puts the most pressure on my knight is knight to d7. If he goes to g4, I take it. So he just lifts the rook. So I should unpin immediately before things get tricky. He's got a check on this diagonal. So the question is, where's a good square for my queen? If I just put it on d3, maybe. Like I said, I'm willing to give up a pawn. I just don't want my queen to get caught in any of the skewers. I want it where it's defended, and I don't want it in the way of my pieces. So kind of by the process of elimination, I ended up with that square. And he's going to put a rook there. Oh, well, that's exciting. That's exciting. He can definitely break through. He can definitely break through on e5 there. Bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes. And oh, he's not doing any of that. Okay, so he wants to take the he wants to take with the knight instead of the bishop, I guess, because he wants to keep the bishop on. But in this case, that pulled his queen off of the e-file and allowed me to bring a rook over here. So the rook, supported by the other rook and the bishop, is adequately defended. If his queen was still there, let's see, and I did this, it would be rook takes, queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes. I would still be okay. Yeah, I would have been able to play that move anyway. So he has the intermediate check. But my king can just step away. There's no back rank mate at the moment. That's what he needed. He needed this position with the queen on e7. Then if he had the queen on e7, he could sack the queen here and mate me with that. But now it's just a little too late. I can take first. And oh, he even took. He even took with the pawn, so there, his counterplay there is gone. Can harass his bishop. Where can the bishop go? See, I could start with this move. And then I could play this move. So no way for him to avoid the trade now. Then I can line up my queen and my bishop on this square. I said there was no way to avoid the trade, but he found a way. He can play rook to d8 there, hitting my queen at some point. Okay, so he decided to give up the bishop there after all. So put my bishop here, and he pushes a pawn. I take, he takes, and then I have to move the bishop again. If I grab the pawn over here and he pushes this pawn forward, yeah, why not? Why not just grab that pawn? He can't trap my bishop there. He can win a pawn over here, so I'm just kind of reducing the material, although they say, let's see, I should be taking pieces and not pawns. Trading pieces and not pawns, that's the rule. Okay, so let's defend that pawn then.
Server announcement.
And now it defends the bishop. And I can go here. Actually, I need to give myself a little lift here first. There's this trick. Like, say, if I played rook e1 and he played rook to d3, hitting my queen, and I took the pawn, he could trade queens and then lift my rook up off the back rank by trading queens and then place his rook here. And that would be annoying. So let's drop down. But now I can just take that pawn. If he pushes, I take with the bishop, and if he doesn't push, I take with the queen, and his rook has no move that defends the pawn. He can try and counterattack something. But I'm not seeing what. Oh, you know, maybe he has. That's. I just spotted that idea. Maybe he has a way to get some kind of perpetual over here.
Check.
Always a danger. Okay, so how's the best way to block? If I block with the queen, he has a check here. Move my king here. Where's the next check? This diagonal is covered, and he has to come from in front or the side. Yeah, I think this is escaping. Queen f3 check, king g1.
Check.
And I don't see another check. He's got a check here. That is true. He is a check at g4. But after I block the check from g4, there's no follow-up check because he's on a light squared diagonal and my king is on a dark squared diagonal. I'm blocking this row with my queen. So I think I've escaped. His last ditch attempt to draw by perpetual seems to have failed. Okay, so he goes there. What is that? Okay, so queen to g2 is what I'm thinking of. Triangulating on this pawn. And, you know, getting my queen on the light square so I can potentially check his king here. So, and the queen has no checks after that. Queen has to move to avoid the trade, I think. Yeah. So after I take the pawn, there is a check back here on g3. Let's blockade his queen. Kind of cut the queen out of the game a little bit. Get it away from my king. And then see what I can do here. This is... Okay, a check here might be good. Drive the king. I want to drive the king to a dark square where the bishop can check. So if I got a check on this diagonal, well, let's start with this move. Defending the rook, defending the bishop, and looking at a check on the back rank. See where he goes from there. Okay, the queen goes there to go after some pawns, or maybe to come in here and harass my my pieces. So check.
Check.
So the queen has no checks from there, so I'm going to go here. The queen can attack various things like my rook. The rook is loose, but he's just going to grab pawns. Okay, so let's check here.
Check.
Let's take this advanced center pawn. Still no checks from his king. From his queen, rather. Yeah, this is the one. So I wanted to play bishop here, but then the queen comes across once again. The queen is also hitting my rook. Okay, so bishop there. It's also checks. But those just seem to repeat. Let's clear the bishop out of the way of the rook. So queen defends the rook, king defends the bishop. The bishop guards this square here where he might give a check. So he grabs another pawn. Let's check here.
Check.
Yeah, it's a little tricky playing this and avoiding. Oh, he's just going for the endgame. I wonder if I have a. Oh, that's a rook and a bishop. That's a pretty
Check.
easy endgame. Must be, even though I have no pawns, I can sack the bishop for these two pawns here. I can't
Black
defend this one.
resigns.
Yeah, and I would
Incoming
mate with the rook.
challenge.
Okay, well, that was an interesting game. I will upload this and do a postmortem and see you guys later. Bye.